Yo, what is up guys? Delboy here, aka Blue Collar Sports TV. Hopefully you guys are doing well. If you're new here, smash that like, hit subscribe, all of that good stuff. So this video is a quick post-fight review for Zach Parker versus John Ryder. Now, at the time, I honestly couldn't be asked to make this post-fight review, just because really I was super disappointed in the way the fight transpired, especially considering I was really looking forward to this fight, but I thought I might as well do a post-fight review for it. Obviously, again, the overwhelming thought in regards to this fight is disappointment, but it is what it is. John Ryder won this fight as Zach Parker retired in his corner at in between the 4th and 5th round, citing a hand injury on his left hand. We'll get into that in a little bit. Fight started out quite cagey in the first round. You know, John Ryder was kind of having a look behind that guard, fighting out of that crouch, but he really wasn't, you know, overexerting himself or looking for shots that weren't there. Zach Parker, on the other hand, was trying to keep it from range. He was boxing on the back foot, utilising lateral movement. And yeah, first round I felt Zach Parker won it. He was kind of sharp shooting. He was a little more active with the jab, and he also landed a couple of flashy right hands as well, quick right hands. But round one was close, but I felt Zach Parker just outboxed John Ryder a little bit. But after round one, I felt that John Ryder was in charge in this fight. I felt that in round two, Zach Parker was trying to do what he did in round one, but I think that lateral movement turned into running, to be honest with you. He looked extremely panicked when John Ryder would successfully close that distance. Every time Zach Parker's back would touch the ropes, he looked extremely panicked. And again, every time John Ryder got up close, he looked extremely panicked. And that gave, and yeah, you could see that I felt that the inexperience of Zach Parker and the low level of competition that he's fought to date really shown itself in this fight. Couldn't handle John Ryder on the inside, and Ryder was picking his moments when to throw his power shots, and he actually did a pretty good job of leading with his left hand. He was catching Zach Parker with that shot as Zach Parker was trying to back out and get out of Ryder's way, but as Parker would like leave a pocket or try to spin out, you know, hands down, low hands, chin in the air, and Ryder would catch Parker with that lead left hand. He was also displaying at times that step-in power jab that he displayed against Callum Smith. Once again, that shot was quite effective against Zach Parker. And yeah, he was landing the eye-catching shots round two onwards. And it was really that way for rounds 2, 3, and 4. Also, when John Ryder had Zach Parker on the ropes, he landed a few flurries here and there, looking to get some shots off. And overall, he was the guy trying to make this fight. Whereas Zach Parker, for my money, it wasn't boxing after round 1. I felt he was running, to be honest. Looked really skittish. And at the end of round 4, he basically just pulled out, citing a hand injury. Now, according to Zach Parker, the left hand went in round 4, and he did switch to southpaw in round 4 to jab from the southpaw stance. But regardless of that, even before the hand injury, I felt Zach Parker really lost his composure. He lost his shape, and he wasn't composed in his style or game plan whatsoever. To me, he looked kind of spooked in there, I have to be honest. And listen, do we believe Zach Parker in regards to his injury? I mean, he's shown a picture the next day, and his left hand, did appear swollen. But according to Twitter, at least, Zach Parker, the scan image that he used was a Google image. Not his, you know, that image was on Google for a long time, and that's the image he's using to show that he's got a broken hand. Did Zach Parker just swallow in this fight? But we have to ask that question, because even before the supposed injury, to me Zach Parker looked really sheepish, and I was really disappointed, to be honest. The guy can crack, but he wasn't sitting down on any of his punches, and every single time John Ryder got close, Zach Parker was shook. Let's be honest, he was shook. So do I believe that Zach Parker's hand was broken? I'm not sure. I'm not sure, to be honest. Maybe not. It was definitely hurt, showing his hand the next day, but after many fights, fighters' hands are swollen and they may not be broken, so was Zach Parker's hand really broken? I have my doubts, and even if it was, couldn't he have gone on a couple of rounds just to see what could happen? I mean, his power hand was still free. His right hand is his power hand, right? So why not try and go a couple more rounds to see if you can land that big right hand? Stranger things have happened in boxing. But he never even gave himself a chance, and at the first opportunity he pulls out. Bear in mind that there was a lot of talk that the winner of this fight could fight Canelo Alvarez. And you think about all the money involved there. So for me personally, for Zach Parker, this is not a good look. And quite frankly, I don't really have much interest in his career going forwards for the foreseeable future. He's got to prove to me that he's about it. I know he did that against Darryl Williams, but boxing is about what have you done for me lately. And that fight was a big, big disappointment as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, I mean, Zach Parker, for me, he shit the bed a bit, even before the injury. And again, even if he was injured, why not continue for a couple of rounds at least to see what you can do? And also at the same time, it then shows us that at least he was trying to some degree. But, he pulls out at the first opportunity. I mean, fortune favours the brave and whatnot. And for me, Zach Parker wasn't brave enough. I know people are going to say, you can't criticise a boxer, they get in the ring and show heart and they're so brave. Well, Zach Parker didn't show that bravery to me. What can you say? What can you say? It is what it is. Disappointing fight. But regardless of the hand injury, I will say this. I think John Ryder was starting to get to Zach Parker. Zach Parker, I think it was his right eye, around his eye was starting to redden. That left hand of John Ryder was landing. And regardless of the injury, I think John Ryder would have beaten him. Maybe stopped him late, but more than likely won on points if he wasn't going to get robbed. Actually saying that, somehow, I believe the judges had Zach Parker up. So there you go, there you go. But if anybody deserves a bit of luck, it is John Ryder. So I don't begrudge him that. I like John Ryder, always have. So yeah, congrats to John Ryder. He is the WBO interim champion, but I have to be honest, I've got no interest in seeing this guy fight Canelo Alvarez. No interest whatsoever. I see some morons on Twitter pushing for that fight over Benavidez versus Canelo, and that tells you everything you need to know about boxing fans. Boxing channels actually saying, well, John Ryder's got a better resume than Benavidez, so he deserves the fight more. I mean, when did boxing fans care about that? We care about the better fight, and we all know, I know, and even these people who say that know, David Benavidez is the harder fight for Canelo Alvarez, and it's the better fight for boxing fans, and it's the bigger fight. It's a much bigger fight than Canelo versus John Ryder. Benavidez, that fight is just much more appealing to anybody with a pair of working eyes. It's as simple as that, as Tony Bellew would say. So yeah, for these idiots on Twitter trying to campaign for John Ryder to get the fight over Benavidez, you guys are anti-boxing, as far as I'm concerned. Anti-boxing. Why would you want to see that fight over Benavidez? Is it because John Ryder is with Eddie Hearn and you want to see that money kept in-house even though you see nothing of it? Bums. Absolute fucking bums. I want to see Benavidez versus Canelo. That is the best fight for him, and that is the most challenging fight for Canelo Alvarez. If John Ryder does get that fight, we all know how it's going to play out. He's going to go in there purely fighting for a paycheck. He'll shell up and more than likely look for a soft spot on the canvas. That's what's going to happen. We all know that Benavidez is a much more appealing fight. Oh, but John Ryder has a better resume. He deserves the Canelo fight more. So you would rather see that fight than Benavidez. And again, some of these guys have big Twitter accounts. Some of these guys run boxing channels. And, these are the narratives in which they push. They would rather see lesser fights just because it suits their boxing political agenda. Now, I'm not sure why that is. Maybe some of these people are twerking for a job on DAZN or with a certain promotional company. Maybe it's that. Who the fuck knows? Your guess is as good as mine. But we all know what is the more appealing fight? We all know what is the fight that people want to see at 168. And as of right now, it is Canelo Alvarez versus David Benavidez. And regardless, this whole resume debate anyway is going to get deaded real soon when, Benavidez goes in there and destroys Caleb Plant. Then what? Are you still going to push for John Ryder over Benavidez? Seriously? Come on, man. What has the boxing scene become? What has the boxing scene become? At the end of the day, my eyes work, as do yours. And, we know what's going to happen with the John Ryder fight. We know exactly what's going to happen. Let's be honest here. Whereas the Benavidez fight holds intrigue. So yeah, that's how I see it. John Ryder, again, I don't want to make this like an attack on John Ryder because he is a good fighter. But again, we're talking in the context of a very shallow division at 168. There's not really much quality there. And I think a guy like John Ryder has been flattered by that. In any strong division, I don't think John Ryder would be a top 5 guy. Probably not a top 10 guy, quite frankly. So yeah, that is what it is. That's how I see it anyway. And again, if both fights happen, let's say Canelo fights John Ryder next, and then he fights Benavidez, then I will wager with any one of these people pushing for the John Ryder fight next, I will wager with any one of these people that Benavidez will end up being a much harder fight and a much better fight. That's what I'll say. But yeah, it is what it is. But we know the score. We know the score with the YTBC. A lot of it is just keeping up appearances to appease to a certain audience. Is what it is. But again, anybody in their right mind, if you have the choice between Canelo versus Benavidez or Canelo versus John Ryder, anybody in their right mind who is sane, who has 2 working eyes, and is semi-sentient, would pick Canelo Alvarez versus David Benavidez. And that's just the truth. Peace.